Hi, this is historian Maxine Keoghan. Today we're going to examine Newfoundland Irish accents. You might well ask, what is it that makes Newfoundland Irish accents so remarkable? After all, it's customary for people who emigrate to retain their accent of where they were raised, but generally an accent is not transferable from one generation to another. Over time, accents are lost while words or phrases remain. In Newfoundland, what's remarkable is that Irish accents have been retained for over 2 centuries, as the Irish who settled in Newfoundland are a part of Ireland's earliest diaspora. Remember, millions of Irish people left Ireland during and after the famine, and for the most part, they have not retained their Irish vernacular. Newfoundland's Irish emigrated decades before the massive waves of emigration that took place from the 1840s onwards. So, how did Newfoundland communities manage to hold on to such a distinctive feature? It seems the answer lies in the communities themselves. And these communities are known as outports. Outports, or out harbours, as they are sometimes called, are ports other than the principal port of St. John's. They are usually small communities, and generally the outport's main activity was or is the fishery. Outports were settled where families could get shelter, fresh water, and access to the fishing grounds. The physical layout of outports varied with the local topography. But fishing outports had particular characteristics in common. Space along the shoreline was used for wharfs, storage sheds and flakes for the drying of fish. Inland from that, houses and gardens were laid out to make full use of any available land. An outport would have had one or more churches, a school and meeting halls. Smaller outports consist almost exclusively of fishing families, while larger outports might have a few artisans such as blacksmiths or cobblers. Another reason why it is remarkable to hear Irish accents from the southeast of Ireland and Newfoundland is that in the 20th century, smaller outports were almost completely decimated. You see, prior to the 20th century, most of Newfoundland's smaller outports lived without local government and local services. However, during the 20th century, the government extended control over and services to these outports. And this process of extending services led to one of the most controversial government policies of Newfoundland's recent history. The government of Joseph Smallwood decided they were unable to provide local services to hundreds of small communities, but by concentrating these families into a smaller number of centres, the government could provide services such as healthcare and education far more cheaply. The centralisation programme and its successor, the Fisheries Household Resettlement Programme, encouraged whole outports to pack their belongings and relocate by offering subsidies to those who chose to move. Government services were withdrawn from anyone who wanted to remain once the majority of the community had voted to leave. Between 1954 and 1972, more than 27,000 people and more than 220 communities were resettled. This proved to be a heart-rending experience for many of those who were resettled and encouraged a romanticised image of life in the former communities by those who found themselves growing up in urban centres and listening to the stories of life before the move. The population decline of rural Newfoundland reached a new level in 1992 when the Government of Canada placed a moratorium upon catching northern cod. Many once thriving outports now had to find new resources upon which to employ their population. While the harvesting of new species and new industries such as tourism gave some outports hope, most experienced a rapid decline in population. Since young people and their children are leaving, the continued viability of many outports is threatened. Some outports will cease to exist, and others will evolve, as has always happened. So you see, with such impacts on these communities, it is more than remarkable to continue to find Irish accents that trace back to the southeast of Ireland. I have a number of people I would like to introduce you to from the Avalon Peninsula. The first is John Chidley from Renews. The second is Edna Breen from a neighbouring community called Ferryland. And both of these people are from areas in what is known as the Irish Loop. The last voice you will hear is that of Florence Keoghan from Point Lance on the Cape Shore. For those of you who can't understand our accents, in the first video, John and I are talking about how fast we talk. Please take a listen. I have to deliberately slow down so that people here understand me.
People come in here, I had to slow down.
Yes.
And or either that, I get to still tell them to speed up their hearing.
Yeah. Now in our second video, John is explaining what is known as the Mount and the carvings that are on the Mount. According to an article in the Telegraph, these carvings appear to be medieval Latin and could date somewhere around 500 AD. And if the date turns out to be correct, the author of the carvings could well be St. Brendan the Navigator on his stepping stone journey to North America.
Now this is the Mount. Did you get down to the Mount? And on the back of the Mount is 18 tall. And that's where all the musicians and the storytellers and the dancers, that's where in my father's generation, that's where they'd all gather for the sessions and and the dances. People even claim that it may have come even from St. Brendan's voice.
In our third video, Edna tells us of her trip to Ireland and of the massive iceberg that floated behind her home in 2017. The iceberg, and indeed her home, were added to a Canadian stamp in 2019.
Hello, how are you?
Oh my God.
This is Edna, Dan Breen's relative.
I live in that house, that
Tipperary.
cream colour house there.
Yeah.
Do you tell her I lived in the house?
Not yet. No. I didn't get that. I only just said
there where the iceberg was too, the red one and the cream one.
It was right beside you. Right behind her.
That's it. Yeah.
How's all your crowd?
Good.
It's good.
I'm hoping to get back to Ireland again.
Good. Yeah. You will.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go, right?
2 years ago.
Yeah. And how did you go with your daughter?
Yes.
You went all over, did you?
We done the Ring of Kerry.
Yeah.
Bus tour, like, you know.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. That was good.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
And now, in our last video, we hear from Florence Keoghan. Now, Florence sounds like she comes from Wexford. And Florence tells us of the heartwarming welcome that she and her community gave to visitors from Ireland. I hope you've enjoyed hearing our accents from the southeast of Ireland. Thank you. This is Maxine Keoghan.
When the Irish came with the Festival of the Sea back, what would that be, about 12 years ago? Or 12 or 14 years ago. They were the first Irish we saw. We said to them when they got up the board, you finally found us. After 200 years, you finally found us. And we were all crying. And Bev had the little dancers, my daughter. And while we were waiting for dinner, I said, Damon and Liz, why don't you just go out and have a little walk around? But they never got 2 minutes from the house because so many people wanted to talk to them.